Hello everyone, welcome to Anime Octopus, your hub for deep dives and engaging discussions in the world of anime. Today's topic, Naruko clashes with failed support, a closer look at character dynamics, narrative tension, and how support systems can make or break a shinobi's path. Disclaimer, the content on this channel is for entertainment and discussion purposes only. I do not own any of the anime footage used in my videos. All rights and credits belong to their respective creators and copyright holders. Let's begin. It was early morning in Konoha, the village hidden in the leaves. The sun had just begun to rise, painting the sky in warm hues of orange and gold. Around the village, people stirred from their slumber, shopkeepers preparing their stalls, parents cooking breakfast for their children, and students getting ready for the academy. Everything about the morning felt calm and ordinary. In a small apartment on the quieter side of the village, one Uzumaki Naruko groaned softly as sunlight filtered through her curtains, casting golden streaks across her room. She turned over, trying to avoid the brightness, hoping to return to her dream, one where Sakura had been cheering her on as she stood tall, proudly named the Hokage. But the peace didn't last. Beep. 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 Ah, Naruko exclaimed, startled as she fell out of bed. Her eyes blinked open as her vision cleared. Letting out a yawn, she stood up and shuffled over to silence the alarm clock. The old device had definitely seen better days, it was one she'd found discarded and managed to fix herself. For a moment, she tried to remember why she had even said it. Rubbing her stomach thoughtfully, her eyes drifted to her calendar and widened as they locked onto the large red circle. That's right. It's the final exam, the last step before becoming a ninja, Naruko gasped. Without wasting another second, she dashed into the bathroom and turned on the shower. The water, as always, was icy cold. But Naruko didn't flinch. She had grown used to it. The landlady, like many villagers, wasn't exactly friendly to her and had long ago turned off the hot water to her apartment. Still, Naruko remained determined and undeterred. After washing up, she dried off, returned to her room, and opened her closet. Inside were several identical bright orange tracksuits. She hadn't bought them, she couldn't afford to. The store owner had tried to overcharge her, but when the suits had been tossed out as unsold inventory, Naruko had rescued them from the trash and patched them up herself. She dressed quickly and made her way to the kitchen. Opening a cupboard, she pulled out a cup of instant ramen, filled it with water, and placed it in her beat-up microwave, another item she had salvaged and repaired. Once the timer beeped, she grabbed the ramen and a pair of chopsticks and headed out, leaving the door unlocked. Nobody ever visited her place anyway. Naruko soon arrived at the classroom where she had spent the last 6 years training to become a ninja. Scanning the room for an open seat, she sighed. The only available spot was next to Uchiha Sasuke, her quiet and often distant rival. Naruko had never really understood Sasuke. He was admired by nearly everyone, classmates, instructors, even other villagers. He was skilled, popular, and always composed. But his cold and distant demeanor puzzled her. She had always craved the kind of recognition and respect he seemed to receive without effort. Seeing no other choice, Naruko made her way over and took the seat beside him. "Morning, Sasuke," she said casually. "HN." Naruko rolled her eyes at the predictable response. Sasuke never said much, not even to teachers. Only Shino from the Aburame clan spoke less, and Naruko sometimes wondered if Shino simply preferred silence over conversation. "Hope you're ready to see me do great today," Naruko said cheerfully, attempting to draw a reaction. "HN." Grinding her teeth in mild frustration, Naruko was about to say more when Haruno Sakura walked in. Sakura had light pink hair and wore a red dress with a white circle at the center, black shorts, and blue shinobi sandals. Like most of the girls in the class, she admired Sasuke deeply. Naruko, however, saw Sakura as someone beautiful, strong, and someone she had admired from afar for years. Despite never receiving more than a polite smile, or sometimes not even that, Naruko continued to greet her warmly. "Hey Sakura-chan." Naruko called, waving. "Do you want to hang out after class?" Naruko. "Not today," Sakura exclaimed, clearly annoyed. "You're so loud." Sakura marched over, took Naruko by the jacket, and gently but firmly moved her to another seat. "So, Sasuke-kun. Maybe we could go somewhere after class?" Sakura asked sweetly, twirling a strand of hair. Sasuke didn't respond and continued staring out the window. Naruko sighed as she sat back down on Sasuke's other side. Over the years, she had lost count of how many times Sakura had turned her down or brushed her off. And yet, her determination always bounced back. Eventually, their instructor Iruka entered the classroom, followed by his assistant, Mizuki. "Alright class, today is the day we see who among you is ready to earn your headband and become a ninja of Konoha," Iruka announced with a warm smile. Naruko's heart fluttered with excitement. "I've got this," she told herself. She had spent all night practicing and was confident in her progress. "When I call your name, come into the next room and perform the clone jutsu," Iruka instructed as he scanned his roster. Naruko's excitement wavered for just a moment. Of all the techniques, clone jutsu was the one she struggled with most. No matter how much she practiced, it just didn't come easily to her. Still, she watched as classmate after classmate returned with a proud grin and their new forehead protector. It made her feel a little unsure, but only for a moment. Naruko took a deep breath, her resolve returning. She wouldn't give up. Not today. "Uzumaki Naruko," Iruka called. Naruko stood up confidently. "Let's do this." Naruko smiled brightly, masking her nervousness behind a confident expression as she walked into the next room. Iruka took a seat behind his desk next to Mizuki. "Alright Naruko, show us what you can do," Iruka said. He wasn't quite sure what to make of the blonde girl yet. Only yesterday, after a conversation with the Hokage about Naruko's latest prank, painting the Hokage monument, he had started to see her in a new light. In some ways, she reminded Iruka of his younger self, the pranks, the loud personality, all driven by a desire to be noticed. In the end, Iruka just silently wished her good luck. Naruko formed the hand seals for the jutsu and began to channel her chakra. "Bunshai no jutsu," she called out. A puff of smoke appeared, and when it cleared, everyone turned their attention to the clone next to her. The clone was lying on the floor, slightly twitching, not looking well formed. Several stress lines appeared on Iruka's forehead as he looked at the clone. "You didn't pass this time," he said, trying to stay calm. Naruko's eyes widened in surprise. She couldn't understand. She had worked so hard and truly believed she would succeed this time. "Come on Iruka, maybe we can make an exception?" Mizuki offered unexpectedly, glancing at Iruka and Naruko. Even though she didn't produce a perfect clone, she gave it her all. Iruka shook his head. "I can't do that. Everyone else in the class was able to produce at least 3 solid clones. Naruko only made 1, and, well, it still needs work." He turned to Naruko. "I'm sorry, Naruko, but I can't pass you just yet." Naruko felt like the world had shifted beneath her. Quietly, she walked out of the room and took her seat again. As the class ended, the other children ran to their parents, proudly showing off their new forehead protectors and soaking in the praises. But one student remained apart from the celebration. Naruko sat alone on the swing set, watching the joyful scene with a distant look. She had never known her parents and often wondered about them. The caretakers at the orphanage had once said her parents had left, and for a long time she had believed that. The Hokage had told her that her parents had passed during the 9-tailed fox incident, but no one seemed to know who they had been. Seeing the other children embraced by their families stirred a quiet ache in her heart. She never showed it and would always deny it if asked, but deep down, she couldn't ignore how it felt. "I'm so glad that girl didn't graduate," came a voice nearby. Naruko tilted her head slightly, her senses unusually sharp. Her hearing, vision, and sense of smell were keen, sharper than most, though sometimes that wasn't a blessing. "Yeah, I know. Can you imagine what might happen if she became a ninja? I mean she's..." "Shh, we're not supposed to talk about that." Naruko frowned and looked away, choosing not to react. She'd heard conversations like that before. People often spoke in hushed tones around her, cutting off their sentences as if they'd almost said something forbidden. She wished she knew what it was they weren't saying. Maybe then, she could understand why she was often avoided. "Hey Naruko." Naruko turned to see Mizuki approaching. "Come with me, I want to talk to you." "You know, Iruka didn't decide against passing you to be unkind," Mizuki said as they sat on the rooftop of the academy. "He's just concerned that you're not quite ready for the responsibilities that come with being a ninja." "I understand," Naruko said softly, her voice tinged with disappointment. "I really wanted to pass this time." A flicker of something unreadable passed through Mizuki's eyes, but Naruko didn't notice. "Then there's something I think you should know." Later that evening, Naruko made her way into the Hokage's office, having slipped past the guards with surprising ease. She was a little surprised at how simple it had been, but chalked it up to her growing skills. "Now let's see, where is that scroll?" she murmured as she looked around. She had been in this office many times before, usually after one of her pranks or just to chat with the kind old Hokage. The room was as she remembered. A large oak desk stood in front of a wide window that offered a view of the village. To one side was a couch, and behind it, the portraits of the 4 Hokage. On the other side was a bookshelf packed with scrolls and books. Naruko walked over to the shelf and scanned the contents. Not seeing what she was looking for, she frowned. As she turned, her eyes landed on a stand next to the shelf that she hadn't noticed before. It held a single, large scroll. "This must be it," she said, carefully taking the scroll. She tied it securely with ninja wire and strapped it to her back. Just as she was about to leave, the door opened. "Naruko," the Hokage said, surprised to see her there. "What are you doing here?" Well. You see." Naruko tried to think of something, anything, that might get her out of the situation. Then, in a flash of inspiration, or desperation, she formed a hand sign and performed the only original jutsu she had created. Oiroke no jutsu. Naruko giggled quietly to herself as she stepped into the peaceful forest. I really surprised Oji-san that time. If it was that easy to sneak past him, maybe he should just name me Hokage already. Taking the scroll off her back, Naruko settled down on the grass and carefully unrolled it. As her eyes scanned the first technique listed, she let out a groan. Cage Bunshine? Not another clone jutsu, she sighed, but quickly added with a determined tone, "Well, I guess I better get started." Realizing it might help to understand the technique more clearly, Naruko took a few minutes to read the description thoroughly. Cage Bunshine no Jutsu, a B rank advanced ninjutsu that can only be used by shinobi with larger than average chakra reserves. This jutsu splits the user's chakra evenly to create tangible copies of themselves. The more chakra available, the more clones can be created. Use caution, each clone shares its experiences with the original once dispelled, which can overwhelm those unprepared for the feedback. Naruko hesitated for a second, her eyes widening at the mention of feedback. Memory feedback? She muttered thoughtfully. But then she shook her head. No matter. I'm Uzumaki Naruko, and I'm going to learn this, no matter what it takes. With a burst of renewed confidence, Naruko stood up and got to work. A jutsu like this would bring her one step closer to becoming Hokage. Less than an hour later, Naruko found herself standing in front of 10 identical copies of herself. To her surprise, the jutsu had been easier than expected. She blinked and cautiously reached out to poke one of the clones. "Hey, that tickles." The clone giggled, swatting her hand away playfully. Naruko stared for a moment before her face broke into a wide smile. "Yada! I did it!" she cheered, throwing her fist into the air. "Yada!" All 10 clones echoed joyfully, mimicking her celebration. Satisfied, Naruko dispelled the clones. But the moment she did, she suddenly saw a flurry of images and feelings from all of their perspectives flood into her mind. Whoa! Is that what the scroll meant by memory feedback? She wondered aloud. She scratched her head, but then simply shrugged. Well, it doesn't matter. I did it. That's what counts. She was just about to examine the next technique when a familiar voice rang through the forest. There you are. Naruko looked up to see Iruka-sensei approaching quickly, his expression firm. Naruko grinned and stood up, pointing at him proudly. Found you, Iruka-sensei. Baka. Iruka muttered as he stopped in front of his energetic student. I'm the one who found you. I guess you're right, sensei, Naruko laughed, scratching the back of her head. You were faster than I thought. I only had time to learn one jutsu. Iruka looked around the clearing, his eyes noting the disrupted terrain. She's been working hard. I can see that clearly. Naruko bounced on the balls of her feet, excitement radiating from her. Hey, since you're here, I can show you the jutsu. And then you can let me graduate, right? That's how this works? Iruka blinked, caught off guard. Graduate? What are you talking about? Naruko nodded earnestly. Yeah. Mizuki-sensei told me if I learned a jutsu from this scroll, I'd be able to graduate. Iruka's eyes narrowed as he carefully observed Naruko. While it was clear she'd been putting in effort, something about this didn't sit right with him. Naruko. Who told you about this scroll? Who said this was how to graduate? Tilting her head slightly, Naruko replied, Mizuki-sensei did. He told me where to find the scroll and led me to this spot. Iruka's expression changed instantly as realization hit. He was about to speak when a sudden whistling sound cut through the air. Instinctively, Iruka leapt forward and gently pushed Naruko aside. A handful of kunai flew out from the trees and struck Iruka's arms and legs. Wincing, The Chunin looked up with a stern expression. So, this was your plan all along. Wow, you caught up quicker than I thought. Came a voice from above. Naruko, wide-eyed, turned to see Mizuki emerge from the trees, a confident grin on his face. Mizuki-sensei? What's going on? Why would you attack Iruka-sensei? She asked in confusion. Both Chunin turned toward her. Hand over the scroll, Naruko, Mizuki said calmly, reaching out a hand. Don't do it, Naruko, Iruka said firmly. Naruko stepped back slightly, unsure of what was happening. I don't get it. What's going on? Mizuki tricked you into taking that scroll, Iruka explained. It holds techniques that are not meant to be freely shared. He only used you to get what he wanted. Oh, you want to talk about lies, Iruka? Mizuki said, his smile widening. Iruka's eyes widened in alarm. He knew exactly what Mizuki was about to say and stepped forward quickly. Mizuki, don't. You know you're not allowed to talk about that. Naruko looked between the two, her heart racing. What do you mean? What lies? What are you talking about? They've been hiding the truth from you your whole life, ever since an event 12 years ago, Mizuki said, a strange look in his eyes. 12 years ago? Naruko repeated, confused. I don't understand. Don't say another word, Mizuki. Iruka warned. Have you ever wondered why people treated you differently? Mizuki asked, making the blonde girl's eyes widen. Why they ignored you. Why it felt like no one wanted you around, like you didn't belong. Mizuki, stop it, Iruka shouted, trying to intervene, but Mizuki continued speaking. I'll tell you the truth, Naruko, Mizuki sneered. The truth that they've kept hidden from you. The fourth Hokage didn't actually defeat the nine-tailed fox. Instead, he sealed it away. Into a newborn baby. Naruko's hands trembled. She had never been one to focus on studies, but that didn't mean she was clueless. Living on her own since she was 5 had forced her to grow up quickly. She may not have been the most scholarly, but she had strong instincts and was very aware of people's reactions. Especially when she'd had to avoid unpleasant encounters with adults in the village before. She could tell Mizuki wasn't telling her this randomly, there was a reason behind it. Deep down, she was starting to connect the dots. And Mizuki confirmed her thoughts moments later. You were that child. You're the one the nine-tailed fox was sealed into. Naruko dropped to her knees in disbelief. Everything suddenly became clear, the harsh looks, the avoidance, the whispers. Even the one time she had tried to celebrate her birthday, she was met with coldness and unkindness. It all fit together. So, that's why? She thought, her heart heavy with confusion. So wrapped up in emotion, Naruko didn't notice the large shuriken flying her way. But before it could reach her, Iruka shielded her, and she looked up in shock to see him wincing in pain. Why? Naruko asked, voice shaking. Because we're alike, Iruka said gently. When I was your age, I felt alone too. I acted silly just to get people to notice me. I understand what that kind of loneliness feels like. I'm sorry, Naruko. I should have been there for you more. Mizuki let out a bitter laugh. Oh, that's touching, Iruka. But we both know you've never liked her. You blame her for what happened back then. Naruko's eyes widened at Mizuki's words, then she took a step back, unsure of what to believe. Overwhelmed, she grabbed the scroll and ran into the trees. Naruko. Iruka called out, but she was already moving swiftly, determined to get away. As she darted through the forest, she heard Iruka calling after her again. Naruko. Mizuki lied to you. He just wants to confuse you. Please, give me the scroll, we need to keep it safe. But Naruko hesitated, spun around, and launched herself at Iruka, knocking him off balance. They both fell to the ground, and Naruko looked down at him cautiously. How did you know? Asked the person she had tackled, who then vanished in a puff of smoke. It had been Mizuki in disguise. Naruko gave a confident smile. Because. She paused as another puff of smoke appeared, revealing the real Iruka. I'm not so easy to trick. Mizuki's expression darkened. Why are you defending her anyway? You know what someone like her could do with that kind of power. She's just like me. Iruka looked at Mizuki firmly. You're right. That is what someone with dark intentions might do. Naruko, who had been hiding nearby, felt her heart drop. But that's not who Naruko is, Iruka continued. She's not a monster or anything close to that. She's my student and a bright, spirited ninja of this village. Sure, she makes mistakes and can be a bit clumsy sometimes, but she's kind, determined, and full of heart. She's someone I truly believe in. Naruko felt her spirits lift. Aside from the Hokage and the kind owners at Ichiraku Ramen, no one had ever said such kind words about her before. It meant more than she could say. You know, Iruka, I was going to save this moment for later, Mizuki said darkly as he spun a large shuriken. But I've changed my mind. Just as Mizuki got ready to throw, a streak of orange flew in and struck him with a powerful kick, sending him backward. The surprised ninja stumbled to his feet, glaring at Naruko. If you try to hurt Iruka-sensei, I won't let you, Naruko declared boldly, her eyes blazing with determination. Ha! I'd like to see you try, Mizuki shouted with a wild look. Naruko formed a hand seal and summoned her energy, focusing on the technique she had seen in the scroll. Multiple shadow clone technique. Iruka and Mizuki stared in awe as hundreds of Naruko clones appeared in the clearing, filling the forest with orange-clad figures. What's the matter, Mizuki? One of the clones called out. Weren't you feeling confident just a second ago? Another stepped forward, cracking her knuckles playfully. Well, if you're not coming to us, we'll just come to you. With that, the entire group of clones charged forward toward the stunned Mizuki, surrounding him as they prepared to stop him once and for all. Naruko smiled as she looked down at the unconscious Mizuki, who was now clearly unable to continue the confrontation. Hee, maybe I overdid it a little, the blonde said with an embarrassed grin. Incredible, Iruka thought with admiration. To have mastered such a powerful technique in less than an hour. And to produce so many clones. She said she wanted to surpass the Hokage, and I'm beginning to believe she might just do it. Naruko, Iruka called out, drawing the girl's attention. Come here, I have something for you. Naruko blinked and walked over, curious. What is it, sensei? Close your eyes for a second, Iruka said kindly. Naruko obeyed, and felt a light pressure lifted from her head, replaced with something different. Okay, you can open them now. Naruko opened her eyes and reached up, touching the cool metal of a Konoha forehead protector now tied around her head. Iruka held her old goggles in his hands. Congratulations. You've graduated, Iruka said with pride. To celebrate, how about ramen tonight? Naruko beamed, holding back tears. She jumped forward and hugged Iruka tightly. Iruka-sensei. Ow, Naruko, that's a tight hug, Iruka laughed, though he was clearly happy to see her so excited. Thank you, Iruka-kun, you may go now, the Hokage said gently as Iruka escorted Naruko into his office. It was late, and after having a celebratory meal, Iruka had helped deliver the Forbidden Scroll safely back. The Hokage had wanted to check on Naruko and speak with her privately. Of course, Hokage-sama, Iruka nodded. I'll see you in a week, Naruko. As Iruka closed the door, the Hokage turned to her. Naruko. He began, but didn't get far before Naruko rushed into his arms, hugging him tightly as she began to cry. The Hokage was surprised. In all the years he had known her, he had rarely seen her cry, perhaps only once before, during that difficult festival years ago. She must have heard more than she was ready for, he thought, embracing her gently. Sorry. Gigi, Naruko said with a small hiccup. What for? The Hokage asked, his tone warm. The scroll is safe, you helped reveal a traitor, and you became a Genin today. I got your robes all wet, Naruko said, pointing to the spot where her tears had soaked through. The Hokage looked down and chuckled softly. Of all the things to be sorry for, she chose something so innocent. Gigi, Naruko said more quietly, is it true? What Mizuki said. The Hokage sighed. He had hoped for more time to prepare for this conversation. It is true. So, I really have something sealed inside me? Naruko looked down, her eyes filled with uncertainty. The Hokage gently placed his hands on her shoulders, urging her to meet his eyes. Naruko, listen to me. You are not what was sealed inside you. When the fourth Hokage sealed the 9 tails into you, it was with the hope that you would be seen as a hero. A hero? She repeated, puzzled. Why? Because thanks to you, the 9 tails is no longer a threat to the village. You are the reason Konoha still stands strong. Really? Naruko asked, her voice tinged with hope. Yes, he affirmed. You are the hero of Konoha. Then, why does everyone treat me like I'm something to be feared? Naruko asked, her expression dropping. The Hokage's face became thoughtful. They don't truly understand. The art of sealing, Fuinjutsu, is one of the most complex and mysterious ninja techniques. Most people don't know how it works. So when something powerful is sealed within someone, they become afraid, unsure if the seal will hold. Many were hurt when the Nine Tails attacked, and that fear hasn't fully gone away. Naruko frowned. In a way, that made a strange kind of sense. But still, it hurt. If they just gave me a chance to show them who I am. Maybe I could change their minds, she thought. She looked up, eyes blazing with determination. I'll prove I'm not what they think I am. I'm Uzumaki Naruko. I'll become the future Hokage of Konoha. I won't let this bring me down. Believe it. The Hokage smiled, proud of her resolve. That's the spirit, Naruko. I believe you can do it. But it will take a lot of hard work. No more pranks. You'll need to truly study and train. A Hokage isn't just the strongest, she's also the wisest. So you must be pretty smart, huh, Oji-san? Naruko teased. Sarutobi chuckled. Do you know why they call me the professor? Naruko tilted her head. Because you're super smart? That's part of it, he agreed. But more importantly, it's because I've learned to read people and adapt to situations quickly, on and off the field. I've studied not only ninja skills, but also how to govern and make decisions for the good of the village. He sighed, thinking briefly about the council, and how challenging managing civilian politics had become over the years. But he pushed the thought aside. The point is, he continued, a good shinobi is not just powerful. She must also be wise, thoughtful, and ready to face any challenge. That makes sense. Naruko nodded. Then her eyes lit up as she remembered something. Oh yeah. Speaking of awesome stuff, you know that cool jutsu I learned? The shadow clone technique? Yes, I know it, the Hokage replied, curious about what she would say next. Yeah, well, I was reading through the scroll, and I was hoping you could help me understand something, Naruko said, scratching the back of her head with a sheepish smile. It mentioned something about memory feedback and said it was really risky or something. But I don't even know what that is. The third Hokage, Sarutobi, looked at Naruko thoughtfully, his mind already formulating a careful explanation. Known for his wisdom and title as the professor, he began to speak with a kind tone. Memory feedback refers to the memories from a clone being returned to the original person who created it, he explained. When a clone disappears, whether by choice, accident, or when its chakra runs out, everything it experienced is transferred back to the original. Like that time I made 10 clones in the forest and saw different parts of myself through each of them? Naruko murmured to herself, but Sarutobi caught it. Yes, he confirmed. That's the strength of the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Naruko tilted her head in curiosity. How is it so useful? Sarutobi stroked his chin as he continued. Originally, the technique was created as a perfect scouting method. A clone could safely gather information in a dangerous area, and when it returned to you through dispelling, you'd gain all of that knowledge instantly. So it's good for remembering things? Naruko asked, still scratching her head. Sarutobi nodded. Exactly. But it's more than that, Naruko-chan. The Kage Bunshin can also be used as a powerful learning tool. You can train through your clones, whether it's chakra control, learning new techniques, reading books, writing, or even taijutsu. Since muscle memory involves the mind, your body can learn through repetition and practice carried out by the clones. Naruko's eyes lit up. So I can actually train with them? Indeed, Sarutobi replied with a smile. But I believe you're the only one who can truly master this technique. Why me? She asked, clearly thrilled by the idea. Because you have more chakra than most shinobi, even more than many jonin. Most can only create 5 or 10 clones at most, he said. I made almost 1,000 in the clearing when I stopped Mizuki, Naruko said proudly. Yes, you did, Sarutobi said with a warm chuckle. But just creating lots of clones isn't enough. Becoming a truly skilled shinobi takes effort, focus, and dedication. Naruko placed a hand on her chest. Don't worry, Oji-san. I'll train harder than anyone else in the village. I'm going to become not only the most amazing Hokage ever, but the strongest ninja in all the lands. That's my lifetime promise, believe it. I believe in you, Naruko, Sarutobi replied kindly. And to support you, I have some advice. But before I share it, I need your promise that you'll take it seriously and follow it closely. Naruko grinned and nodded. You've got it, Oji-san. I promise, on my word as the future Hokage of Konoha, I'll listen and do exactly what you say. Sarutobi smiled. Very well. Now that you're officially a shinobi, you have access to the ninja section of the library. There, you'll find scrolls about chakra theory and control, essential shinobi techniques, and even books on sealing arts, if you're interested. I also suggest you read about politics and civilian matters. A future Hokage needs to understand how the entire village works. He gave her a serious look. Start with books on basic chakra control and theory. Also, look for a taijutsu style that suits you. Sometimes the general one taught in the academy isn't the best fit for everyone. These foundations are important. Without them, you can't move forward. Naruko nodded, unusually focused. You've got it. First thing tomorrow, I'm going to the library to look up all that stuff. Then she paused, frowning. Though, I don't know if they'll let me in. Sarutobi's expression grew thoughtful. He knew Naruko hadn't always been welcomed in every shop or place in the village. But the library was under village authority. If anyone tries to stop you, remind them that it's against regulations to deny a shinobi access. And if there's still an issue, they can speak to me directly. Oh, and one more thing. You might want to think about getting some new clothes. New clothes? What's wrong with these? Naruko asked, looking down at her bright orange outfit. They're comfy. And orange. I understand that, Sarutobi replied with a chuckle. But orange stands out a bit too much for a ninja. Part of your job is to move unnoticed. Wearing more neutral colors will help you blend in. Besides, something more traditional can give you a strong and professional image. It might even make people take you more seriously. That caught Naruko's interest. Okay, I'll do it. Though, I've had trouble with stores before. They don't always let me shop. I understand, Sarutobi said gently. But if that happens, you come straight to me. Thanks, Oji-san. Now, you have a full week before your Jonin sensei is assigned, Sarutobi said. Use that time wisely. With your clones, you should be able to study and learn quickly. Just remember, physical training has to be done by your real self. Clones can't help with your strength or stamina. Naruko blinked. Why not? Because they're made of chakra, not your actual body. They can't build up your muscles for you, he said. Now it's getting late. You should rest so you can start fresh tomorrow. Right. I'll see you later, Gigi. Naruko called happily as she turned to leave. Sarutobi watched her go with a fond expression. He glanced at a framed photo of Minato on his desk and smiled. Your daughter is walking a bright path, Minato. She's going to do great things. Dear YouTube family. That wraps up the first part. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure to stay tuned, because the best is yet to come. Much love. Anime Octopus.